Continuing in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch in siman Kuf Chav Beis, discussing the laws of the 9 days. Holding now by Sif Tes, just want to add one more detail regarding what I spoke about at the end of the previous year regarding the Havdalah during the 9 days, during Motzei Shabbos Chazoin. We were speaking about giving it to a child, like the custom of many people are to give it to a child. Now, a lot of people ask the question, how much does a child have to drink? It's usually a bit difficult for a child to drink too much wine. So Al Rebbe holds that if you're giving it to a child, all that is needed for the child to drink is the amount of Meloi Lugmov, which means one cheekful. If he puts wine in his mouth, that if he would put it to one side, he would see a full cheek. That is the amount that he would have to drink, and it would go based on his cheek. So if he's able to drink just enough wine to fill one cheekful, that if he were to put it, to the side of his mouth, it would blow up and look like the cheek is full. So even if it's just the size of his cheek, that would be okay. Now, what if it's hard for a child to drink wine or grape juice? For those that make Havdalah on grape juice. So some people ask, maybe it's better to make Havdalah on beer or other beverages that might be permissible to make Havdalah on. So the truth is that it doesn't say, I don't think it's brought down anywhere, there's such a concept that if you can't make Havdalah on wine, because there's no child that will drink the wine, you should make it on other things. Particularly because making it on other beverages is not the best way of making Havdalah. We only make it on other beverages if we have no other choice. But according to Halach, it's much preferable to make it on wine, or at least on grape juice, for those that make it on grape juice. And therefore, if one's children cannot drink the wine or grape juice, so they should make Havdalah themselves on wine or grape juice, and they shouldn't make it on something else instead. Continuing now in Sif Tes, it's discussing the halachas of washing clothes during the 9 days. Now in general, during the 9 days, we don't wash clothes as a sign of Avelus, a sign of mourning. Not only don't we wash clothes, but in addition, there's a prohibition to put on freshly laundered clothes. Now the truth is, these two prohibitions are independent one of another, which means that even if you are washing clothes not for the purpose of putting them on during the 9 days, but you're washing the clothes for after the 9 days, it's still prohibited, because the prohibition of washing clothes is a prohibition on the actual act of washing the clothes, even if you're not going to put them on during the 9 days. If a person already washed clothes before the 9 days and they're freshly clean, also he has the prohibition of putting them on, although they were already washed before the 9 days. So we'll discuss a little bit more about this now. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch speaks about it in Sif Tes. He says we do not wash clothes during these 9 days. Even garments you don't want to wear until after the fast, you're not allowed to wash. Even to give it to a non-Jewish woman, like let's say today you would give it to a laundromat that's run by non-Jews, is prohibited. However, it is permissible to give clothes to a non-Jewish laundromat or to a non-Jewish woman that will wash them, and to tell her that she should wash them after Tisha B'Av. She's not going to wash it during the 9 days. So you're just giving it to her and telling her to wash it after Tisha B'Av. That is permissible. Before the 9 days, you'd be allowed to give it to her to wash, even though you know that she's going to end up washing it during the 9 days. But obviously you wouldn't be able to put it on if it was freshly laundered during the 9 days, as we'll soon see. A Jewish woman, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch continues, is allowed to wash clothes of a non-Jew. However, in the week that Tisha B'Av falls out in, she should be careful not to. What is the reason for this? The reason for this is because of what we call Madas Ayin. People will see that this Jewish woman is washing clothes. In those days, they didn't have washing machines in everyone's apartment. They used to wash clothes, usually by the side of the river. So they're going to see this woman washing clothes. They know she's Jewish, so they're going to think that she's washing Jewish clothes for Jewish people. So it appears to other people to other Jewish people that she's violating this prohibition of washing clothes during this period. But if it's noticeable that it's non-Jewish clothes, particularly in years bygone in Europe and other places, that was a distinct type of clothes that Jewish people wore, and then non-Jewish people they'll have their types of dress and clothes that they wore, so then she would be allowed to wash the clothes. So too, one is not allowed to put on freshly laundered clothes before. However, in the honor of Shabbos, one is allowed to put on, Kitzur Shulchan Aruch calls linen garments, or in general, we put on freshly laundered clothes. What if somebody does not have any Shabbos clothes that are washed? They're all dirty, they need to be washed. So then, the Kitzur Shulchan brings down from Achronim, from other commentaries, that somebody in such a case, we give it to a non-Jewish person to wash during the period of the 9 days, to have it for Shabbos. I think the custom is that if you don't have a non-Jewish person readily available and you need the clothes for Shabbos, I think the custom is that we wash it ourselves. Obviously, we try to do it quietly, and you don't add other clothes that are not needed for Shabbos to it, and so on. So too on Shabbos, for the honor of Shabbos, we put on the table white, clean tablecloths. In the house for the Shabbos table, so too in Shul, as the custom is that in the Shul we put on the tables white tablecloths on every Shabbos, and we change the towels to have fresh towels, freshly laundered towels, the same way we do on every Shabbos. But fresh linen, one is not allowed to put fresh linen. That's generally, basically, what comes out is that the prohibition of using freshly laundered clothes doesn't only apply to clothes that one wears, it applies to towels, it applies to linen, and so on. More in detail, the accepted minhag is that when it comes to undergarments, undershirt, underpants, socks, things like that, the custom is that we wear freshly. Even if they were freshly laundered before the 9 days, we put them on during the 9 days. Shirts and pants and things like that, the custom is to put them on for a period of time before the 9 days, to wear them for some time, a half hour, whatever it might be. Person can just take a bunch of shirts and put them on together for a half hour, whatever he's going to need during the 9 days. So the point is that it's not going to be considered that he's putting on something which is freshly laundered, that has this fresh, new, clean look, but because you already put it on a bit before. If that wasn't done, the custom is to put it on the floor, a dirty floor, and to step on it a little bit, take away a bit of the fresh look that it has. If somebody doesn't have any clothes, all his clothes are dirty, and he only has, he needs to wash his clothes. So it appears that in such a case, if he has no choice, he could wash a minimal amount of clothes, basic clothes that he needs, and, maybe put it on the floor and step on it, whatever it might be. If he doesn't have any clothes, then it's, I think the poskim are makel in such a case. It would seem from some poskim it should be done through a non-Jew. I guess the way it seems from other places is that, I guess if there's no non-Jew available and needs clothes to wear, he could do it. But obviously a person should try to make sure before the 9 days that he has whatever he needs. All clothes that he needs. If he wants to change his linen, he should change his linen before the 9 days and lay down on the bed a bit, whatever it is. It shouldn't be fresh linen. But on Shabbos, although we put on freshly clean clothes, we do not put on fresh linen. We can't put on fresh linen on the bed. And even on Shabbos, we cannot put on a new suit. You could put on, during the 9 days, freshly laundered clothes, but not a new suit. A woman that needs to, for purposes of going to the mikveh and so on, needs to, wash clothes. There's permissibilities that she has. And the small children as well, those days they still had the cloth diapers, which always needed to be washed, very frequently. That was permissible to be washed. In general, there's from the Ramah, it seems that there's a leniencies in general regarding clothes for small children. The question is a bit of discussion exactly until what age does that apply. There's different opinions in the matter. And there's also, some people say that the leniencies only apply until the week which Tisha B'Av falls out in. But in other words, during the 9 days itself, they're split up into two categories. The part of the 9 days which starts before the week that Tisha B'Av falls in, and the rest of the 9 days which are actually part of the week of Tisha B'Av itself. So leniencies regarding washing clothes of small children, that, according to some, would only apply during the beginning of the 9 days before the week of Tisha B'Av actually starts. But I guess for the diapers and things like that, cloth diapers that need to be washed, and there's no choice in the matter, so it could be washed, but the commentary is right. You should not wash a lot together. You should only wash basically as needed, not more than that's needed. And also, it should be done betzinas. If possible, it should be done quietly. It shouldn't be done publicly. In those days, they would usually, like I mentioned before, wash clothes by the riverside, which is a public place. Today's day and age, usually we have a wash and a dryer at home. But sometimes maybe a laundromat, or some places that are more public. Try to do it as quiet and discreetly as possible. If you're washing clothes for small children, you should not add other clothes anyway. You're saying, listen, anyway, I'm making a wash, let me add some clothes for adults, even though I'm not going to wear it until after Tisha B'Av. That you can do. You could only wash by what you need for small children, and that's it. Same thing for small children. There's also permissibilities regarding the prohibition of eating meat and drinking wine. So for small children that need to eat meat, there are leniencies. Again, the question is which age, depending on the health of the child, if he needs it. There's different opinions on the matter, exactly when and how is it permissible. But in general, there are leniencies for small children, particularly if they need it for their health and their growth. There's no question about it, they could have it. Even if they don't need it, maybe up until a certain age it's permissible if they still don't comprehend what the 9 days are all about. But in any case, since there's different opinions, a person should consult with his Rav what is his psak. Sif Yud, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch goes on to discuss the prohibition of making new clothes. Besides washing clothes and wearing freshly laundered clothes, we also don't sew and make new clothes. He says you don't make the prohibition entails making new clothes or new shoes, or to make socks. They used to weave together material to make socks. It's not allowed to be done, even if it's being done through a non-Jewish contractor, non-Jewish person that's doing it for a Jew. Is not allowed to be done during these 9 days, even if he's not going to put them on during the 9 days themselves. However, there's a great need for a chassan that would be done after Tisha B'Av, and you have to do it now. So you're not going to do it during the 9 days. It's not going to be ready in time. It's allowed to be done through a non-Jew, but not through a Jew. Before the Chodesh, before the beginning of the 9 days, one is allowed to give even to a Jewish craftsman to make these new clothes, even though he's going to do it during the 9 days. But as long as he ordered it before the 9 days and he's not going to actually bring it home during the 9 days, so the fact that the Jewish craftsman is making the new clothes or shoes for him during this period is permissible, as long as he was asked to do it beforehand and he's not going to pick it up. He's also bringing it to the house, also creates a certain simcha, which is not to be done during the 9 days. Sif Yud Aleph, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch says an interesting halacha that there were women that would not set up the threads for weaving. We know in those days, today it's all done by machinery, but those days they would set up on a loom, they would put the threads all around, and then they would put the thread in to weave it together. So they wouldn't set it up because the strings set up are called shasi. And the minig is that since the Even HaShasiyah, since we know that the stone in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies, on which the Holy Ark stood, Holy Ark stood on top of this stone in the Holy of Holies, and the destruction, in a certain sense, the Even HaShasiyah, the light and position that the Even HaShasiyah had in the Beis HaMikdash was taken away. So therefore, because the word Even HaShasiyah, Shasiyah means like the foundation stone, Even HaShasiyah. So the word Shasi means just the threads on the loom that are set up this way. But because the word Shasi is connected with the word Shasiyah, so it was accepted custom by women not to set up, even though they're not actually weaving the clothes, but even setting up the strings around the loom they wouldn't do. So since they accepted upon themselves a stringency, one is not allowed to permit it for them. Now we're talking here about making new clothes and making new shoes. Regarding buying different vessels, different manufactured machinery, whatever it might be, that will give a person joy. So in general, it seems that poskim accept that anything that, let's say if a person is going to buy something which is like very expensive and like silver or gold vessels or something, an antique or very precious picture or not, whatever it might be, which is something of special value and special joy, one should not buy it during these days, because it says one of the things that we don't do during the 9 days is we don't do masa or matam, we don't do business that brings enjoyment. We do business if a person needs money for his livelihood, he's allowed to do business. But to buy and sell things just for the purpose of pleasure, of happiness, we don't do. So anything which brings a person joy, extra special joy, should not be done during these 9 days. So sometimes a bit hard exactly to classify what is joy, but let's say buying a new car, if one does not need it at the moment for his livelihood, is one of the things that poskim say one should not do during this time. Or anything, getting very nice and expensive furniture and things like that should be avoided, should not be done during these 9 days, because it adds to a person's simcha. Sif Yud Beis, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch speaks about the prohibition of bathing during the 9 days. Bathing during the 9 days, so Kitzur Shulchan Aruch writes, is not allowed to be done even in cold water. A person cannot bathe even in cold water. However, he's allowed to bathe just his hands and feet and face in cold water. This is one of the reasons why we're careful not to go swimming during this period of time. But if somebody needs it for health, for example, women that are pregnant or just gave birth, which for them it's important to bathe, so to a person that is weak, that the doctor told him that he has to bathe, so they're allowed to bathe even in hot water. He has a bit of discussion if a woman needs to go to the mikveh, how exactly she should do it. Today's day and age, particularly in places in this side of the world where it's very hot during the 9 days, so there are leniencies that are said for a person that is really suffering from sweat, that he could wash the areas that are sweating and wash his whole body. Some people say you should only take a cold shower. For certain people they can't do that, and they really can't. They're very sensitive to the lack of shower that they can have during the 9 days. So if a person really needs it, there's room to maybe should use lukewarm water, or shouldn't use soap or less soap, whatever it is. But at any rate, even those people that feel that they really need to take a regular shower, definitely they should minimize the amount of time that they spend in the shower. Just do it quickly, 1, 2, 3. And they should minimize in the heat of the water. It shouldn't be as hot, just what is necessary, not more. And basically it should just be done for health, for hygiene, and it shouldn't be spend extra time or have extra hot water, whatever it is, for pleasure. Because according to their basic halacha, really bathing is prohibited, so one should be careful to minimize only exactly what is needed and necessary. Sif Yud Gimel speaks about Shabbos during the 9 days. Is one allowed to bathe, take a shower for Shabbos during the 9 days? So one possibility is that Rish Chodesh Av, that the 9 days start on Friday. So in such a case, it says whoever usually takes a hot shower every Friday, is allowed to take a hot shower now also on this Friday. But on Erev Shabbos Chazoin, the Erev Shabbos right before Tisha B'Av, one is not allowed to take a hot shower even if he usually does. He could only wash his hands, his face, and his feet. So to somebody that usually cleans his head with shampoo or whatever on a regular basis on a Friday, so he's also allowed to wash his head on this Friday, but he can't use soap or shampoo. Somebody that usually goes to the mikveh on Friday could also go to the mikveh on this Friday, Erev Shabbos, Friday, last Friday of the 9 days, before the Shabbos Chazoin, but it should preferably be a cold mikveh. But somebody that sometimes doesn't go to the mikveh cannot go. Now in general, this is what it says in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. The minig of Chassidim, many Chassidim, amongst them Chassidei Chabad, also was that on Erev Shabbos Chazoin they would take a regular shower as usual for the honor of Shabbos and go to the mikveh and so on and so forth. But would this appear that somebody that is a bit lax in this matter on a regular Friday, that the honor of Shabbos is not so strong by him that he would feel compelled every Friday to take a hot shower or to go to the mikveh for Shabbos, l'chayre, it will be questionable al pi halacha whether he could take a shower now and then go to the mikveh now. If he usually, there are times that he doesn't feel it's, he doesn't do that. Sif Yudalad, he speaks about somebody that unfortunately is in a state of avelus, if he could take a haircut and so on, whatever it might be. If his avelus finishes, shloshim finishes before the 9 days. Sif Tesvav, he speaks about a bris milah that takes place during the 9 days. So he says the minig is that the moyel, the one that performs the bris, and the sandak, the one that holds the baby, the father of the baby and his mother wear Shabbos garments, but the kvater, the one that brings in the baby, is not allowed to wear Shabbos garments. But the woman, the kvater is a couple, a husband and a wife, a man and a woman. The woman that carries the baby could wear Shabbos clothes because for her this is her mitzvah, but the man shouldn't. There are opinions that say that even a man could wear, that's a kvater, not like the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch that prohibits the male kvater from putting on Shabbos clothes. There are opinions that say that a male kvater could put on Shabbos clothes. Taking a haircut could be permitted to these people that we mentioned before, the Merl and the Sandik and the parents and so on, before Shabbos Chazoin, before the week of Tisha B'Av, but not afterwards. Sifta Zayin, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch speaks about wearing Shabbos clothes on Shabbos Chazoin. So he says that Shabbos Chazoin, the linen garments, in other words, the shirts and the pants, the stockings, whatever that was worn the undergarment, not like the jacket and so on. So the minig is that they wear fresh clothes for Shabbos Chazoin, but the rest of the clothes of Shabbos, like the Shabbos hat, the Shabbos jacket, and so on, that depends on the different customs, whether they put on regular Shabbos clothes or not. Minig Chabad, the same as minig of other Chassidim in general, is that we wear the regular Shabbos clothes for Shabbos Chazoin. Also, many non-Chassidim also have this custom of wearing regular Shabbos clothes on Shabbos Chazoin. In the shul, they change whatever they would regularly do on a regular Shabbos, have special pareichas that they have for Shabbos, and tablecloths and things like that. They would have Shabbos Chazoin just like any other Shabbos. The only exclusion is if Tisha B'Av itself falls out on a Shabbos, they wouldn't do this. Yud Zayin, and he says the last sif over here, is that in Shabbos Chazoin the minig is to call, to say mafter the Rav, which goes, the Haftarah is known as Chazoin Shayo, Haftarah of speaking about the Yeshayo HaNavi is saying words of rebuke to the Jewish people. So they would call the Rav to say the Haftarah because the Rav is able to recite it in a way, a lamenting way and so on. and then the Rav shouldn't get his regular Aliyah, which is Shlishi, but he should get Haftarah for Shabbos Chazoin. Shetake B'Zoicha, that we know that Rabbi Yitzchak Barditchev explains that the Haftarah of Chazoin, even though it seems to be a rebuke, but really speaks about, could be explained as a very big praise for the Jewish people. And he explains that the word Chazoin, the vision, which literally was a vision of rebuke, really shows on in the deeper sense, shows on the vision that every Jewish person is shown, the vision of the third Beis HaMikdash on that Shabbos. May we merit that we should see it physically, speedily, take it from Yad Mamish right now.